The Arts, Parks, Health, and Aging Committee. It's Tuesday, the 26th of July, 2008. Mr. Reyes is excused. Mr. Weston will be joining us, but he does have another important meeting in the City Hall after that. Mr. Clerk, what I'd like to do is take the appointees first. Are the appointees here? Okay, great, super. So let's call number 3 first.
Item number 3 is a communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of Ms. Deborah Eduardo to the Commission on Community and Family Services for the term ending June 30th, 2014, to fill the vacancy created by Richard Vladovic, who has resigned from the commission. This is a time limit file. The last day for council action is August 5th. This item is scheduled for council today on July 26th.
Thank you. Deborah, would you come to the center table? Tell us a little about yourself. Right there. We'll fix that. Sergeant, could you fix it? No. Sit down and relax right there.
Oh, okay.
Charles, yeah, that's good right there. Thank you. Very good. Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay. Tell us a little about yourself.
Well, my name is Deborah Eduardo. I'm the Director of Pupil Services and Dropout Prevention for the Los Angeles Unified School District. I'm also a board member for the National Dropout Prevention Network. I'm born and raised in the city of Los Angeles to parents of Mexican immigrants. I have been very committed for years and years in terms of improving services to children
What high school
and
did you go
families.
to?
I dropped out of high school when I was in 9th grade from Hollywood High School. I had my first child when I was 15 and 3 more by the time I was 25. Decided to go back to school and spent a long time at LA Community College while I was working full-time with 4 children, and then I transferred to UCLA, got a bachelor's degree in women's studies and Chicana studies, and then I continued with my education. I got a master's in social welfare from UCLA,
Right.
and I'm currently doing a doctorate program at UCLA in educational leadership.
Well, your life history is so important, as much of it is our foundation for what formal education gives us.
Yeah.
So I know you'll be a great contributor to this. We're going to recommend approval, Mr. Clerk. We'll see you in City Council, and you can make a little presentation at the table where you'll be seated in Council this morning at 10. Thank you for your service to the City of Los
Thank you. It's an
Angeles.
honor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 4 is a communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of Mr. Michael Manigault to the Commission on Community and Family Services for the term ending June 30th, 2014, to fill the vacancy created by Miguel Garcia, who has resigned from the commission. This is also a time limit file. The last day for council action is August 5th. This item is scheduled for council today, July 26th.
Michael, come on up and sit down. We had a chance to meet yesterday. Good morning.
Good morning.
And for the record, state your name and
My name is Michael Manigault. I'm the Community Relations Manager for Bank of America in Los Angeles.
a little about your history and what you feel you could bring to this commission.
I'm local talent. I was born and raised in Los Angeles, went to Sarah High School in Gardena, went to UC Riverside for undergrad, UCLA for business school. I've got over 30 years of community and economic development experience working in local, national, and international activities with a variety of nonprofit organizations. I think what I bring to the table for the commission is the opportunity to create some partnerships and collaborations where the city has a great framework set up. It's just a matter of telling the story and connecting the dots for the nonprofit community.
Well, that's key. Your business background is key. You went to a great high school, too. And so I want to say, Mr. Weston, we welcome you. You have any questions for our commissioner?
I missed the high school.
Sarah High School in Gardena.
I know Sarah High School well.
It's a good school.
Yeah, it is.
Right. So was Hollywood High. Okay, the previous
Okay.
appointee. So we're going to recommend approval? Very good.
Yes.
And also, Mr. Clerk, we're going to reconsider item number 3 to recommend joint approval for Mr. Runyon. as
Okay.
well. Okay, thank you very much. We'll see you
Thank
in
you.
council. So you want to reconsider 3 just real quick? So we'll both show support for Deborah.
Did you want me to read that back into the record,
Well, should we
Councilman?
do that, or can we just say we're going to do it?
I can go ahead and read it and make it
Read it in the
official.
record, super.
Item number 3 was a communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of Ms. Deborah Eduardo to the Commission on the Community and Family Services for the term ending June 30th.
Good, Mr. Weston, you're okay with that, appointing a good person, Hollywood High, specialist in dropout prevention, had life experience in that, will make a difference.
I trained this man a few weeks ago. He had to fill in my committee, so he knows the way I roll.
Uh-huh.
So yes,
Oh, good, okay, good, good, okay, good.
he's ready now.
Got
I'm
it.
ready, sir.
Item number 5, we'll go to 5.
Item number 5 is an LA for Kids Steering Committee report relative to a 9-month extension of the Proposition K Agreement Number C-115606 with the Children's Institute for Design and Construction of the Temple Street Campus Urban Greening Project.
Good morning, Bernice Hollins, Office of the CEO. The LA for Kids Steering Committee is recommending in favor of a 9-month contract extension for Children's Institute that received $550,000 in Proposition K competitive funds for an urban greening project. There will be no impact on the general fund as a result of this project coming online.
Very good, so you recommend it as the CAO?
Yes.
Good, Mr. Weston, you're okay with it? Move. Item number 6, please.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Unanimous.
Item number 6 is a motion, Han Labange, relative to the Department of Recreation and Parks to report on the feasibility of acquiring the Powder Magazine located at 1003 North Eubank Avenue in Wilmington in order to expand the Drum Barracks Civil War Museum.
Hi, Mr. Shaw.
Good morning, Mike Shaw with Recreation and Parks. Yeah, we've been looking at this site as with Council District 15. It was a possible donation of a property. We haven't had any discussions with the owner in a while. There was some discussions of it no longer being a donation, and there was some fee involved, but we never got confirmation on the fee. We do have some concerns because it is a historical piece of property. It's the original Powder Magazine associated with the drum barracks. And the facility that's there, although be it small, is in very, very poor condition. So we're concerned about the infrastructure and the money that it would take to bring it up to speed. So we weren't necessarily 100% sold on this. We were trying to work with the owner of the property as well as some other local businesses to see if there was any potential funding that could come from the private industry to help us renovate this facility. But as it stands today, we have not been able to acquire it.
Good. Well, then we'll continue this, is the best recommendation, and we'll consult with the Office of the 15th District for their input as well.
Very, very
So we'll
good. Thank you.
continue it until we schedule it again. But continue to look at it and make your best recommendation. That's
Absolutely.
okay? Good. So ordered. Next item.
Item number 7 is an adopted budget recommendation relative to the City Administrative Officer with the assistance of the Department of Recreation and Parks and the Bureau of Sanitation to report on the feasibility of reducing the amount of payments by Recreation and Parks for trash pickup. This item is also referred to the Budget and Finance Committee.
And who's here representing the department on that? Mr. Reagan? This is on trash pickup? Mr. Scholl? New to the city processes is accountability for whether it's utilities or trash collection. And in this budget here, I don't particularly like it because over the past, Recreation Park has been holding their nose and cooperative, whether it's Bishop Canyon and Elysian Park or Toyota Canyon and Griffith Park and other sites. You've shared park land for the need of the city, which is a history. But now they're asking you to pay for trash pickup? And how much is that?
That's correct, Councilman. I'm sorry, I don't have the exact dollar amount.
Well, here's sanitation here, so we could have some of that. We just got your item right now. We just turned it all over back to sanitation and said in their good heart, we'll do it for free.
I would love to. Good morning, Alex Salou, Bureau of Sanitation.
We just started.
Okay.
So here's the thing, Mr. Weston, I think we both feel the same way. Parks are extremely important, and then also the other services. But to get tagged with what would be, I'm sure, a very steep sanitation charge, takes away from the hours that could keep the lights on in gymnasiums and pools and fields throughout the city. Alex, give us the 411 from and who's pushing this? And you didn't do it before, so how did you get paid for it before?
Good morning, Alex Hello, Bureau of Sanitation. The Bureau of Sanitation provides the collection of the refuse and the green waste. We take the green waste from the rec and parks directly to Sunshine, and we pay the tip fees. Previously, in the last 4 or 5 years and so, always actually the general fund has been the one who's subsidizing this activity. So whatever charges we are incurred at the landfill at Sunshine Canyon is basically charged back to the general fund, and general fund has paid that fee. Only in the last year, in this last year budget, we were told to separate the two charges and continue charging for other activities, the general fund. For example, the police and fire, general fund covers those. However, they decided that Rec and Park would be carved out, and they would have to basically pay the Bureau of Sanitation. In the Bureau of Sanitation,
Mr. Weston,
How much money are we talking about?
It's in the neighborhood of $3.8 million. And I'd like to make a clarification also to what was stated regarding the trash collection. Kevin Regan, Assistant General Manager, Recreation and Parks. So here's the story. Recreation and Parks does not have green waste, as you stated, hauled to the landfill. Recreation and Parks is engaged in recycling of all of its green waste, nearly 100%. We're also in a joint venture with the Bureau of Sanitation to recycle and compost additional amounts of green waste, and we even take some of the curbside recycling at our composting site and recycling site within grinding site within Griffith Park. What is being charged back to the Department of Recreation and Parks is the trash pickup for the trash that's generated in the parks from the public coming to the park and using the park. The Department of Recreation and Parks doesn't generate this trash. The trash is generated by the public. We pick it up. We have employees that go around the park, collect it all, put it in receptacles, and eventually put it in dumpsters that the Bureau of Sanitation then comes with their trucks and picks up the dumpsters. That's the charge that we're getting charged back, something we never had to pay before.
That's $3.8 million
3.8 million roughly, yes.
for the year.
For the fiscal years, yes.
If I can just speak my mind, and I know I have to leave early, I hate to leave you in a lurch. I don't like that. I don't think that they should pay $3.8 million. I mean, and I love your department as well. I mean, I get along well with Rec and Parks. Well, I get along well with everybody, but I love Enrique. It's your shop. I think you guys are smart enough to figure out a way where you can save that $3.8 million. At least the department that you work for generates its own money for the most part. And you've been, I think when you, in the big picture, their department has been kept relatively whole, whereas Rec and Park has been decimated. And $4 million means a lot to Rec and Park. I would love to see some creative way where you guys would go back to whatever room you go to where you think stuff up and think up a way to absorb the $3.8 million. I wish there was something that we could do.
I love you, Herb, and I think we could do it. I think we take on the Finance Committee of the City Council, and because this is a service, as Mr. Reagan said, it's not department generated, but it's service to the city, and it's mostly a general fund. If we're picking it up at the police station, do we charge, Public Works charge street services for trash that they have?
Any department that we provide collection to, we are required under 218 to charge them, because our funds come from basically the ratepayers.
I got it. That all came.
So we charge, yes, Councilman, we charge police, we charge fire, any department that they ask us to collect,
Right.
El Pablo, DWP, Harvard.
How much do we generate from the little adjustment we made for the bulky item? Do you know how much dollar that is? That's significant dollar. This is an adjustment we made on
Multifamily bulky item program.
multifamily bulky item pickup because of the overload there. Yeah, you were helpful. You were right there at the 5th and Alexandria.
Mm-hmm.
Let's continue this. I think this is a deeper question because we don't want to lace the department with additional costs. And also, at the same time, the stump grinding facility is either west of Camp Weston or north of Camp Weston, depending where your camp is in Griffith Park. That's a large area that you dedicate and share. And as Mr. Scholl and Mr. Reagan said, 100% of all that green waste is recycled in there. And I don't know what that green waste is going to, but the trash, I would take that trash to a MRF, because I bet you your trash cans have more recyclables in it than a normal trash can, because it's a picnic type thing. That being said, let's continue this, and I'll meet with the CAO and see what we could do, because I don't want to see you, right now you're laced with this, but this is the adoption of the recommendation from the Finance Committee, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so we'll hold this here, and let's fight it out, Herb.
Yeah, now,
Okay?
well, I think it's not so much fight it out. We just
Okay,
need
I'll
to find a way to work it out.
Work it
I
out,
mean,
all right.
Rec and Parks is operating on fumes,
Mm-hmm.
and we want to try to. I would think there would be a creative way, or at least we should look at this and see if we can come up with a way to do it. And again, I have the highest respect for your department, sanitation. And it's not that, so I'm not saying, oh, you guys are the bad guys or anything like that, so please don't take it that way. But what we are trying to do is save $3.8 million from a department that I think also provides a critical service to the people of the city.
And I don't know how much the accounting was focused on 10 years ago or 20 years ago, et cetera. So we'll figure this out, and as you said, not fight it out.
Talk it
Figure it out, talk it out.
Work it out.
We met once, and we need to meet again with Rec and Park and to see what innovative ways we could do to reduce the cost.
That was-
But most of our charges, I mean, just to let you know, Councilman, is really goes to pay back Sunshine. And that's why.
No, I get that.
So that's why we need to find some better way of doing it.
I get that. You
Right, we'll
explained
figure a
that.
way. Thank you
Okay.
both, Alex,
Thank
thank you, and Enrique and everybody there. So we're going to continue this 60 days. Next item.
Item number 8 is a Board of Recreation and Park Commissioners report relative to Proposition 84 statewide park development and community revitalization program, Round 2, grant application for a new park at 4948 York Boulevard in Council District 14.
Darrell.
Good morning, Darrell Ford, Department of Recreation and Parks. The report in front of you is a board report from the Department of Recreation and Parks concerning the submission of a Proposition 84 application for the second funding round for a proposed project at the intersection of York Boulevard and Avenue 50 in Highland Park. The proposed park site
What
is
corner is that, you know?
the southwest corner.
Southwest corner.
The southwest corner, it's a vacant lot currently. It's about 0.3 acres. The proposed park project would be to acquire and develop a park at that site. The site is currently owned by a private property owner. So if the grant application is successful, the department would have the funding to acquire the site and then develop
The
a park.
councilman of the district supports it.
Yes.
Very good. Mr. Wesson, so moved. Next item.
Item number 9 is the Department of Aging report relative to the acceptance of an additional Medicare Improvements for Patients and Providers Act grant award for beneficiary outreach and assistance.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Charles Shivers with Department of Aging. I'm here today to request authorization to receive these grant funds. Excuse me, the dollar amount is $154,000, of which the department will receive $106,312 for direct services, and that will be to enroll low-income older adults throughout the city in Medicare Part D, which assists older adults pay for prescription drugs.
Ms. Trejo supports this.
That's correct.
Good. Well, I think we should support it. Move. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Number 10.
Item number 10 is a City Administrative Officer report relative to the proposed agreement with Library Square Associates LLC for the maintenance of the Central Library landscaped areas.
Okay, good. Both library issues we're going to continue until the library department could be here for that. We'll do 30 days on that. Mr. Wesson, I thank you. Item 1 and 2 is a district matter, which I know if it comes to council, you'll give a good idea of what support you could give to it. But at this time, if you need to move to your next meeting, I'm going to call this item next.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Mr. Chair.
Wesson, you very much. Good meeting, Richard, so far. Let's call item number 1.
Certainly. Item number 1 is the Department of Recreation and Parks to provide a verbal briefing relative to all issues relating to quality of life for the neighborhood surrounding Runyon Canyon Park, including all points of access to the park. This item is a discussion item only at this time.
Mr. Reagan.
Good morning, Council Member. Kevin Regan, Assistant General Manager with the Department of Recreation and Parks. I'm here essentially to answer your questions, but I can tell you a little bit about what
It's a little history. Runyon Canyon Park was developed when, and et cetera, et cetera.
Runyon Canyon Park was developed as a park after the city acquired the property, and eventually the park was opened up and became the city's largest dog park, where the entire area within sight of this hillside, multi-acre hillside park is open for off-leash dogs. The park is surrounded at its southernmost end by a number of neighborhoods, and these neighborhood streets kind of run up into this hillside park. There's not only single-family homes, but there's apartments. And so one of the largest issues that has been brought to the attention of the department and to the council office as well is that a number of people who come to visit this park, and I might also mention that the park has become just increasingly more popular over the years to get to the point where we are today, where the park is extremely popular for people throughout the Los Angeles area and even from areas outside the city that like to come there to both hike and to do the off-leash dog portion. So there's website, not recreation and parks or city websites, but just unofficial websites that people have put together that advertise the park and photos of the park, and it's just a very popular place for people to come. So with all that, some of the largest impacts are related to traffic, to people who come to visit the park have to access it through these residential streets. And as they come through the residential streets, many times they won't obey the leash law at that point, and they're running their dogs off leash before they even get into the gated, portion of the park where it becomes legal to then run your dog off leash. So with the dogs off leash, there's a number of problems associated with that. Dogs go to the bathroom on the street in front of people's homes. The owners of the dogs don't seem to care. The homeowners and apartment dwellers in the area get increasingly more frustrated with the fact that people walk in large numbers up and down the residential streets in the middle of the street. They block traffic. They park in people's driveways, believe it or not, blocking private driveways. It's parking, access, and really encouraging people who attend the park to follow the basic laws are some of the biggest issues. There's also some issues that have been raised recently in meetings with your office and several community groups, in which these community groups have talked about some environmental problems within the park as well. They're citing a lot of feces and urination that then, even though Recreation and Parks does a good job at picking this up, it's just a kind of an overwhelming amount. So it becomes there's a smell in certain areas of the park, and so there's so much hiking, and many of the folks that come and hike are not following the designated trails, so they're kind of blazing their own trail, and that causes some erosion. And then at the northern end of the park, there's also very similar problems with parking, with a lot of people accessing, a lot of noise, and...
Do you think people go to Runyon instead of the state park, which is in Laurel Canyon, like Fryman Canyon? Because they have to pay for parking at Fryman and they don't at Runyon?
You know what? My analysis of that question is that I think people use both parks equal. I mean, people go to Fryman in large numbers.
Right.
However, Fryman does have a large area that they've been able to dedicate towards parking that at Runyon Canyon, unfortunately, we just don't have.
Right.
So, and they're able to charge for that as well. Now, At Runyon, the reason I think it's so popular is because of its location, number one. It's right in the heart of the city. It's right in an area where most folks don't have a yard to run their dogs, so they're going to come, and it's a great place. It's got beautiful trails, beautiful vistas. You can see all parts of the city from when you get up on top of the hill, and when you hike, it's a great hike, good exercise. There's a lot of activities there. There's some people that come and do yoga. There's some people that come and meet. It becomes a great social thing. I think that Runyon Canyon is a victim of its own success. It's such a great place. It's such a nice park. So many people enjoy coming there that it's just getting overwhelmed. So I think in the long run, what we need to do as a city is look at some long-term parking solutions, which, Councilman, as you know, we tried to do in the past, and some of those were successful, some of those efforts were not.
There was one in particular, Fuller. I was worried that once you open the Fuller gate, you would have to spend millions of dollars to widen that little access road, and that would be tough to achieve because of the limited dollars, because there's a bulk of a hill right there. It's not a natural opening. And Mr. Scholl's here, the head of all park planning. Could I ask Mr. Scholl to the table? Thank you. Mr. Scholl, your thoughts? This is 90-plus acres. Mr. Reagan spoke about people on what we would call self-trailblazed, some of the environmental challenges. Does someone like Mr. Cooper, a specialist in native plants and environment and ecosystem, do we need to study the health of that land? I walk it on occasion. I'm a real Griffith Park hiker all the time, every day, but on occasion I get to Runyon, and I see just the difference of soils and not the variety of fauna and tree life that you see in Griffith, especially after the fire, much of it sprung. But Michael, your professional opinion.
Well, it's different in some of the trails that necessarily aren't maintained trails in Griffith Park are different than what you see at Runyon because of the off-leash dogs. I think you're going to see a variety. It offers a completely different challenge as far as, Runyon Canyon is involved, because the dogs are off-leash and they run. Anybody that owns a dog, they love to run, and they're going to run wherever they please, trail or no trail. And it's very disruptive to the natural environment if that's the goal, to have some sustainability in that environment. An off-leash dog park, you're never going to be able to sustain that. And honestly, I don't think there isn't any types of plants or flora or fauna out there that would survive, native or non-native, that would put up with the amount of traffic that Runyon gets and the off-leash dogs running around.
You read Animal Farm in college?
Yes, high school.
I read it in
high school.
Yeah, high school. Oh, you're smart. You're a Penn State guy. Two legs good, 4 legs bad, or was that 4 legs good, 2 legs bad, or whatever it was, something like that. Okay, I have some other department people here. And Ms. Shapiro, would you testify as a deputy for the area, just for the record? We want to get this on some track to try to make some changes. But it is, I think, a victim of success is the word that Mr. Reagan used there. Ms. Shapiro, give us an outlook of what kind of concerns you hear from people. Identify yourself.
Sharon Shapiro, Councilmember Tom LaBonge's office, Field Deputy of the Hollywood area. Our office has had several conversations with the residents who have felt increasingly overburdened based on the popularity of the park. I think Mr. Reagan kind of touched on the highlight being parking concerns, particularly in that it's a balanced single-family as well as multi-family dwelling area. There are existing areas that have some preferential parking restrictions. However, I think that the concern is how do we balance the interest of those who want to utilize the park as an asset in the city of Los Angeles with those who obviously want to maintain the quality of life and ability to park, in their neighborhoods.
And Mr. Reagan and Mr. Scholl, there is preferential parking in the area. Someone suggested to me, okay, I could live with Runyon Canyon Monday through Friday, but on weekends, we can't even go out with any, especially get back into our neighborhood. And they suggested there be preferential restricted parking in what would be the single-family zone west of Vista for a variety of streets. Is there any restriction, because we bought the land with public dollars, and we don't have any parking for the people on the property, that they have restricted parking adjacent to the park? Is there any law that prevents a change in the restriction? Let's say if they restricted parking, permit parking only for weekends.
I'm not aware of any. I mean, I think that's worked out generally through DOT, but yeah.
Right, but there's no law that,
I'm not aware of a restriction of that nature, and we have done parking areas like that around certain parks when we've had.
it does have it there, it gives you 2 hours right now, but on the weekends, they explain that they cannot. I did meet with a group of residents, and they were very short-fused by the overwhelming challenge of the park.
I think one of the dynamics you have there, Councilman, and I think you know this because you've done a lot of community work there, but you have these various concerns on the various streets that lead to the park. So, and the residents that live on these different streets don't necessarily speak to one another and don't necessarily all have the same issues. So whatever we do on Vista is going to push the problem over to Fuller and vice versa. So you have to, and I know you've weighed these options before when you've made decisions. And so I think that, and I want to also compliment Sharon and Jeannie Min for all of the work that they've done with the community and some pretty tough meetings that, and I attended as well.
Right.
With Captain Muskis, who's from OPS, who's here today. We're at a point with Runyon that we may want to look at other types of options. So I think that we've done a lot of community work, and I think that maybe there's some, I'll just say it, and Mike kind of mentioned it in a very, green kind of like environmental fashion, but maybe the idea of having the entire place a dog park is something we want to look at for moving forward. Maybe that decision is something that we want to look at changing.
Or what if you went back and you made in the bottom of the canyon, let's say north of the Yoka area, put up 4-foot fence and have it in there? I mean, I know people like to walk with their dogs. And
Exactly.
it's
You
a
could take the dog on a leash
it's a
at your
joint
hike.
experience.
Yeah, right.
But if there was a fenced off large off-leash area and a little dog off-leash area between where the basketball or tennis court was and down in that area, and maybe a small area up on top to not discriminate from people who come from Mulholland. Because the truth of the matter is the dogs do go everywhere,
Right.
and the soil is being destroyed, and whether or not, someone suggested the park should be closed for a year just to let it recoup because it's been beaten down. Now, there's much more work to do. There also is a suggestion, would you have any objection to a 90-day closure of Vista just to see what that does?
I'm not sure I understand what you mean by
Close the
closure of the
Vista
gate.
gate.
Closure of the
Have
gate.
it all come in
I
fuller.
think the Department of Rec and Parks doesn't necessarily either endorse or oppose the closing of the Vista pedestrian gate, but during the process of these community meetings, our police and fire certainly said that they thought that was not a good idea for safety reasons. Now, there may be some type of gate that can be an emergency
open, right.
handle or something could be.
And let me ask you, on Waddles Park, there's a parcel of land that the very kind gift from the Canadian Mr. Alex Trebek, and I say that because of the great gift that he gave. Is there any way to connect a footpath, let's say from Hollywood and Curzon through the gardens, through past the Waddles Mansion? Because there is a parking area that's not used on the east side, up into this space that could possibly be for walkers only, not for dogs, but it gets you to the trail.
I think, Kevin Regan, one second.
Yeah.
I think that there's probably a possibility of doing that, but I'm just going to be very honest with you, Councilman. I think that our fear is if we try to tie Waddles to Runyon, we're going to create the same problem at Waddles that is now occurring at Runyon, and it's not going to like diffuse the problem. It's just.
Well, I found another solution, Kevin, too. I went to Venice Beach with my wife for dinner a few weeks ago, and we went to somebody's house, no place to park. We parked at LA Unified's elementary school and paid $12 to park. And this is on a weekend, and LA Unified Madam City Attorney, has always been hostile towards any type of joint use in some ways, but yet in Venice they do it. So I'm thinking if we partner with Gardner Street Elementary, use a Saturday and Sunday lot, have an operator, they could make the money. We just give people an opportunity. And if everybody's walking for fitness, if you walk from Hollywood and Gardner, or basically Hawthorne and Gardner, you're still getting your walk through the park, through a neighborhood. So I think there's
I
options.
agree with that concept.
Give an off-site area that would make
Off-site
work.
parking, if we can find these, but
Let me hear to the caretaker, the best dressed caretaker in the park system, who just got his hair cut, who I didn't recognize.
Darrell Ford from Recreation Parks. Thank you, Councilmember. Just to follow up on the comment you were making about the connection between Waddles and Runyon and the Trebek property to the west, and I think Kevin made the point exactly that we're going to essentially tie all the parks together if we open up Waddles to that. Not to say that it's a good or a bad thing, but it's just to keep all that in mind. And the other thing is the Trebek property you actually cannot reach unless you go to the top of the canyon up to Solar Drive. The problem being that even if you wanted to walk, say, down Franklin through Waddles and over to Trebek, there's a pedestrian gate. There's an actual street closure at the top of Curzon Canyon. So you cannot even go up into the eastern part of the Trebek property.
Right.
So that pedestrian gate prevents people who do try to walk across and through the canyon. They would need to go up the Solar Drive and come across, which isn't very apparent to a lot of users, hence why Runyon seems to get the bulk of the hikers, whereas the Trebek property is empty, quite frankly, most of the time, and has vistas and views that are comparable to what's available over at Runyon.
Right.
It's just the fact that we've done street closures which have limited access to that property,
But
unfortunately.
if you have park property that starts at Hollywood Boulevard in Curzon, does it continue straight through if there was a trail?
It continues straight through, but only north, going upwards back through
I got
Waddles
it.
Park.
Still got to be figured out, but it's
Yes.
just some options there. Also, since 2005, with the storm of 2005, Lake Hollywood, which has been closed, although dogs are not allowed there, but some walkers may have found a home in Runyon that used to be at Lake Hollywood. That should be open later this year. No dogs allowed, but that should be opened again. So I'm going to ask some of the other departments to voice their concerns. I see the fine senior lead officer, the fine DOT representatives, and GSD. Could you come for make some comments, if you would, please? On anything, just what kind of day it is, what's your favorite beetle?
Councilman, I would just like to say,
Who's your favorite beetle?
Yes. As they're coming up, that we did hold a meeting in your office, and we did put together a task force with Office of Public Safety, DOT, Animal Services, and LAPD. And Captain Muskis may be able to tell you a little bit about those task force, but I will say this, they did them over a number of multiple weekends, and very successful. They were writing citations for dog licensing violations, for off-leash violations, for parking violations, you name it. And they literally could have just written citations all day long. I also might mention, because I'm sure that they probably won't, they may or may not tell you this, but the officers themselves have a really hard time at this site when they go up and try to do these types of enforcement efforts. So they have to go as a team, because individual animal control officers or even police officers are literally almost assaulted when they're trying to enforce the law.
Challenged by free-spirited individuals.
Exactly. So I just wanted to set the stage for that. They did a great job.
Good morning, Richard Muskis with General Services.
Yes, Richard.
Just to echo what Kevin was mentioning, that yes, we have had a joint task force in DOT, Department of Transportation, as well as Animal Services, General Services, Office of Public Safety, and LAPD, that all participated up there in Runyon Canyon to address the dogs off leash and other violations, licensing and things of that sort. Animal Services pretty much takes the bulk of the lead. We're there as a support organization as well as issuing the citations for the violations. It's been fairly successful. We still have future dates for the rest of this month. We have, I think, 2 more dates set up for this month for task force operations up there as well, and then we're planning for next month to continue. As Kevin did mention, it is very challenging. My hope and goal was to create an environment of like that traffic officer that everybody knows that's always sitting at an intersection or at a certain area where you slow down when you're getting by that area. I want people to know to keep their dogs on their leash when they're approaching there in Runyon Canyon, never knowing if that officer is going to be standing around the corner there when they come around up through the hillside.
We want them to have a good experience, but it has to be maintained. Are there any reports of dogs fighting or are dogs getting along?
There has been. We don't receive a lot of those directly, but there has been over in the past, there has been a few incidents where dogs have been injured.
Very good.
Sergeant Olson, I'm in the Hollywood Division. That's part of my area of responsibility. We've been participating with GSD, LAPD, sir. Also, what we've been doing is on weekends to address the issues, we have direct patrols up there. It's actually part of the officer's assignment for the day that go through South End around Vista. Also, we have officers assigned to the North End where they're aggressively enforcing the preferential parking around Desmond States roads up in there, the issues on Mulholland, and taking the appropriate action when necessary, up to and including impounding cars.
Do you handle both sides of Mulholland, or is the north side the valley?
We're handling both sides
Yeah.
right there, sir.
Right, okay.
Okay, and especially, I'm sure you're familiar, sir, with the no stopping area,
Right.
no parking area. We regularly tow vehicles out of there because it's a hazard.
Right.
And
What if, let me just ask a question. This is just something, I mean, I'm not looking around. Maybe Joe Young's the only guy who could match it. Maybe you, Sergeant, too. Odd and even days. You know, what if, well, that would be interesting. Odd and even days, because they had odd and even for gas in the 70s. If there was odd and even access, because it is overwhelming. We'll have to have a community discussion, but in the parking lots, I know people may still come, but it is important to try to balance this out. Do we have a survey of walkers to know how many are daily walkers and or what the cycle is? Have we done a survey? I'm looking at the recreational park.
We've done that type of a survey.
Well, we should do a user survey. Maybe we could look at the Mia Laird program she did a few years ago and copy that and see what we could do and just at least try to drive some people to get this situation, because it's only going to become overwhelming unless there's something done, because it's so popular.
I will say this, Councilman, I think one of the areas of frustration for the residents has been that, let's look at it from also a budgetary and funding standpoint. The Department of Recreation and Parks, for most of the area of the hillside parks that we have in Griffith and Elysian and all of our 10 regional parks throughout the city, we don't do a lot of maintenance in these kind of like natural areas. I mean, where the trails go through, there is some trail maintenance, there's trash pickup and things like that, but the department's not funded for all types of different maintenance in these areas. These areas are natural, they mostly take care of themselves. This particular park is not being utilized that way. So what's happening is it's getting this overwhelming flow of people, dogs, and we're not funded to do anything except some general maintenance and trash pickup, mostly down near the Fuller Gate.
The mistake, I think, it's in the management historically of recreation and parks. If there's a building there, the CIO will budget 12 positions for you, including maintenance. But if it's natural land, you just have to get a roving crew to go through there,
Right.
especially now. What needs to be, I know you did assign a full-time ranger there, that's correct?
That's correct, I did.
So, but that full-time ranger's there just 40 hours a week, 4 days a week.
The rangers work a 4-10 schedule,
Right.
so he's there 4 days a week, 10 hours a day. He is, as you know, we have both law enforcement rangers and kind of like naturalist rangers or interpretive rangers. The particular ranger that we were able to assign to Runyon is a naturalist type of ranger, but he does a lot of work. He walks the site daily, he talks to people, he does a lot of public outreach and education in terms of trying to get, look, I'm going to say it, the fact that people disobey the law is a fundamental problem here. And people are coming to this park in large numbers disobeying the law. It's a fact. And when the DOT...
walking their dog into the park.
No, wait, before they get there, and it's one of the biggest problems, is that they allow their dogs to defecate on the street.
I got it, but even if they get to the Fuller Gate, if they take their dog off the leash, it's not until you're another half a mile
Right.
up.
Correct.
that it's the off-leash dog.
That's correct. So people are not observing that. And what we're doing is we're working with different types of signage, again, unfunded. We're working with a number, and let's face it, putting the ranger at Runyon full-time is not funded. Those rangers are funded for the entire regional park system, but we dedicated that one there to try to help with the issue. So signage, public outreach, and education, and just trying to get people to be really kind of observant of basic, I guess, courtesy when they're in the park and kind of take care of the park. So I think there's a lot of angles to really ever solve this particular issue. And we may want to look at whether or not we continue to, as I've stated before, designate the entire area as off-leash. Of course, the Rec and Parks Commission has final determination on that, but we may or may not want to look at that as we study this problem.
Absolutely. So what we're going to do on Runyon Canyon, we're going to continue this. We'll call within 30 days or 45 days for another hearing. I may have a hearing out at Gardner Street Elementary closer to everybody so they could come and talk. I would like to request the Recreation and Parks come up with a park advisory board, which you have at other locations. I don't see that there. We should establish some guidelines that your commission works under as they engage with the public. So if Kevin is responsible for that, would you find out how we do that?
Yes, I will, Councilman.
Yeah, good. Okay, great. Okay, so we're going to continue this 30 days or more. We will let it know. I thank you, everybody. Some of you may want to stay right there because we're going right into the next park. And for the record, Mr. Clerk.
Item number 2 is the Department of Recreation and Parks and General Services, Police, and Transportation to report on the impact to the Lake Hollywood area as it relates to global positioning system devices. This is also a discussion item only.
So what we have, Griffith Park has the world's most famous monument that's a sign, the Hollywood sign. And recently with GPS, people are now driving right up there. I'd like to take some public comment first. Mr. George, I want to say it correctly, Abrahams from Hollywood High. Class is 69? 69, right? Yeah. Yeah, good, super. Okay, good, thanks. Super. Lisa.
Yeah, I'm George Abrahams. I'm a director of the Beechwood Canyon Neighborhood Association and a Hollywood land resident since 1959. I grew up in the area as a small kid, and I understand the attraction of the Mount Lee and the Hollywood sign. When I was 8, 9, and 10, I and my friends would go up there quite frequently. We climbed all over the letters of the whole sign. I'd go through the buildings of the old Don Lee broadcasting buildings. I would hang out with the police officer who was manning the police transmitters up there. And even one Christmas, my friends and I discovered some mistletoe growing in some trees just west of there in the area that you saved. And we collected mistletoe, we sold it to everybody on Beechwood Drive, and we made several $100s, which was a lot of money for kids in that day. So I have the bug of the Mount Lee, too. I had an accident last February 8th with a tourist following a Google map routing her up Gower Street, Verbena Drive, Preston Drive, and Durand Drive, the street on which I live. She was unfamiliar with our narrow, winding streets, and while driving on the wrong side of the road, ran into me head-on. And this photo is the photo of the accident. And her car, that's my van, she was on the inside. And so it's essential that the GPS and the Internet maps be set to guide tourists on a safe and direct path, following the main streets to the most appropriate location. Tourists are the lifeblood of the entertainment industry. All our incomes depend on them. Bless the tourists. They have the right to travel. We cannot stop them from coming into our neighborhood. The best solution is to be welcoming and accommodating and respectful of their rights. We found that when we set up volunteers at key intersections, that the traffic impact on our neighborhood immediately diminished. The tourists were grateful and proceeded expeditiously to the scenic view, took their pictures, and then left. Without the guidance, they were wandering around lost on all of our other streets. They wound up misdirected to unsafe dead-end streets, endangering the residents and blocking the access to the Mount Lee Emergency Communications Center and LAFD helipad. All we ask is that they not trespass on private property, refrain from disturbing the peace, and obey our traffic laws. We ask that the city erect guide signs at the intersections of Ledgewood and Rogerton, Ledgewood and Heather, and Ledgewood and Mulholland Highway, pointing the way to the scenic view located at Mulholland and Canyon Lake Drive.
Thank you very much. We're honored to have the Senior Lead Officer Maggie Dillard here from Hollywood area, longtime experienced officer in Hollywood. Give us just an overview of situation that you know.
Yes, I've been the senior lead. I've been in Hollywood for 11 years. I've worked in the area. I've been the senior lead up there for 2 years, but previously have worked with Mike Shea up there as well. I've gone up there, I go up there on a daily basis. The traffic on the weekdays is fairly light. Weekends you have a lot more tourists. I know that we have a problem on Deronda when they go from the 5 points, when they go right up at Deronda where the GPS sends them. Obviously we have the Mount Lee gate up there, and then another gate to the residential area, which causes them to just go in circles and block traffic on that side. So the goal was to kind of send them over to Canyon Lake, the park over there, and the scenic viewpoint where there's more parking, where there's actually a scenic view where you can take pictures as well. I know that's caused some problems as well for the residents up there because there's extra traffic. Like I said, I've never seen major traffic jams over there by the Canyon Lake Park. I think it's definitely a better location to send people. There's more parking. There's just a better spot altogether. And as long as the curbs are painted red like they are, I haven't seen anybody double park in that area. People park the wrong way sometimes, but I've never seen anything where they block traffic. So I think it's a better idea to send them there.
Right, and is there a lot of calls for service up in that part?
No, absolutely
right.
not.
And as far as crime?
No crime at all. The only thing that I've ever heard of was the smoking in the area.
Right.
And we do go up there, but of course, nobody does anything in front of a black and white and in a uniform. I haven't seen anybody up there, but I do get complaints about smoking, so.
Do you ever testify in court?
Yes.
When's the last time you had to testify?
Let's see, about a year ago.
Am I as nice as a judge?
Oh, yes, sir.
All right, okay. Thank you, Maggie. Very good. Captain, you have people up on Mount Lee. We did have a complaint that's often because people hike up to the sign is, stay away from the sign or you'll be arrested. And there's concern from the neighborhood that they hear that all the time, and it kind of messes with them, among other things. The area of Mulholland, which is on what would be west of Deronda Gate at Ledgewood, they put an application in for a street closure vacation for a gate with a walkthrough like we have at Deronda, but that prevents people. Kevin, are you familiar with that section of Mulholland?
Deronda section?
On the Ledgewood side. It's a split side, and they're right below the sign, and they turn into a lot. We had a fire plug knocked over by the tourist some time ago. So, Captain, do you have anything to report on that?
Regarding the gate, or?
No, regarding the situation up there, your officers, you have someone from GSD there 24/7.
Yes, we do.
Right.
The actual congestion up there near the Deronda Gate is pretty common. It's not a major thing during the week, but however, in the weekends it does get a little crowded. Officers, for the most part, are dealing with tourists when they come up in that area, and they've been pretty receptive to officers' direction as well. But we don't spend a great deal on the time because the officer has to monitor the Mount Lee area at the top as well.
Do you know how many tickets we issue a year for trespassing onto the historic monument of the sign, or?
No, I'd have to.
Yeah, I just wondered. I mean, I want to be nice. I don't want to be hostile to tourists, but they should not. It's unsafe to be. It's very steep right there at that sign.
But we do issue some trespassing citations.
Yeah. And Lake Hollywood is a sunrise to sunset park. When do you pass that park? Do you ever? It is a vista. Some people come up at night, trying to see it, but it's restricted at night. So they want to have extra patrol there.
Yes, we haven't had many incidents up there. It's a fairly quiet area.
Yeah.
The tourists during the daytime are no problem at all. Haven't had any incidents. The dog park down there nearby where everybody uses seems to have the bulk of activity where regular users come up, the regular neighborhood community.
Right.
Up there at the Vistas where the tourists go to.
Is that dog park under enforcement at all, or do we know?
Well, people use it as a dog
Yeah,
park.
it's an unofficial dog park,
Yeah,
but
it's an unofficial dog
do we
park.
enforce it?
Unofficial
What do we,
dog park is-
what do we do, Kevin, do you know?
Well, I mean, there's an awful lot of parks throughout the city that people utilize as unofficial dog parks, and it's illegal. And if we get complaints, then we'll issue work assignments to Office of Public Safety, and they'll put on extra patrols. But again,
Right.
as the officer stated, once a black and white shows up, everybody tends to start obeying the law. However, we have other options. If it becomes a problem, but we have to dedicate resources, and that means putting people on extra shifts, overtime, so that they can do patrols and even like do some undercover work where they'll go off and maybe be, not be totally visible and then write the
Who
violation.
does undercover? You do undercover work?
No, but OPS has done it.
Do you do undercover work?
I don't go undercover.
Yeah.
I stay, I'm like always.
You look like it now, Kevin, with that beard. I thought you...
I'm below the radar, but I'm not undercover.
But in soft clothes, I would say. It's not like they go in spy clothes. It's
Well,
just
they've
soft-
done that too, but typically what we'll do is try to do a lot of education first, so that we can try to encourage people to obey the law. When they decide that they want to continue to disobey the law, then we'll write citations.
Okay, well, on the GPS issue, that's a competitive issue, correct? There's all kinds of companies that do GPS, right? So there's no way we could say to them to restrict it. And the internet is, Madam City Attorney, is an open highway, right? And we can't restrict what people say on the internet, even though it may cause us a challenge on that. I don't know how they found 3800 Mount Lee is the Hollywood sign address, though. There must be on somewhere that the Hollywood sign must be 3800 Mount Lee Drive. And if we knew that address and changed that address to a public space, although there's 400 people who sign a petition who don't want anything. But the problem that I have is to try to explain to them that they do live near a monument, yes, and it is sometimes overwhelming, yes, but at the same time they have a park, plus they have a lake that everybody pays for, and it's open space, and it, again, is not easy because of the interest in such a famous sign. In addition to that, there's no entrepreneurship that is created in an area, let's say, right at Gower and Hollywood Boulevard, or if you had a platform like at a county fair where you went up, you could look right into it. That would keep a lot of people in the central part of Hollywood. And the other thing, too, Mr. Reagan, the observatory is closed to tour buses, for small shuttle buses. They got to drop people off and go down to the Greek. I want to have that gate open for them so they could have a 20-minute stop up on top, like you did before.
Well, Councilman, as you know, when we reopened, there was some new operating strategies up there.
But it wasn't approved by the council. It was done by the park department, and there's been great resistance by the observatory, and it never was discussed that way because $93 million were spent, and I have discussed it with the great Dr. Krupp,
right, so that's
who I admire, but on this particular case here, we have to get the pass-through, because what really offends a lot of people is when they see these large, what I call little vans with a chop top, and they come up there and all that. And if we could direct them to the observatory, they get a 2-for-1. It drives interest to your wonderful historic observatory, but also they get the sign of the shot, the sign in the rear.
Well, we all agree that the observatory vista is a great way to look at the Hollywood sign. However, I think we should probably have a conversation with the general manager and Dr. Krupp about that.
I've written the general manager several times, and we're not moving forward as it's July 20, whatever it is now. Also, up on Mount Hollywood Drive, at the turn, right now you have people who go to the observatory, and because it's so restricted, they park halfway down Western Canyon. And if you go to the tunnel and West Observatory, there's a bar arm gate on the upper road.
Correct, and that's...
If that gate was moved up and there was a turnaround possibly at what is the point,
The Hellas spot that far up?
No, not that far up. Just up to where the tank is.
Right.
I don't have a map right here.
No,
but
I know.
You know where?
And, you know, Councilman, that, I don't think we would necessarily be opposed to doing something like that, but again, these are, remember, there's various community groups.
Yeah, I got that. In 1992, when the rain came, I got that, Kevin. I've been doing this for a long time.
No, I got
that's
that.
what
I mean, you've been in these.
And I know there's a lot of people in the various interests that would be, but the access to the observatory, if the Parks Department refuses the tourists, which you do now, because you make it difficult for them to come up on a spontaneous visit. When you're a tour bus and you're going to go into a show, they offload, they let them pull up, they offload, then they park at the Greek and they come back. But often, many people visit the observatory for a 20-minute walk around the deck, see the city, and get back in their car and move on. So that's something to look at as well as far as the Mount Hollywood opportunity.
Right,
on the
and I
road.
agree. I think we're just trying to ensure that the observatory lots are available for the folks that come to see the observatory. And that's.
But also, let me ask you a question. How many people go to see the observatory? How many people just go to the spot, and what's the difference? And how do you discriminate against the one who wants to see the vista of the city and look at the building, or the one who wants to go to the show?
I don't think you do discriminate against that, because I believe that a lot, as you say, Councilman, a lot of people come up just to look at the views and walk around the site and enjoy the physical, beauty of the building itself. So, right, but I just think that, as you know, because you've been very much a part of all this, that parking up there is limited, and so they've had these ideas of when a large group comes up, they drop the folks off and then go back down to the Greek End Park. So anyway, you know this. I just wanted to tell you that we're with you on
Well,
this.
this has been a good start, because we got to look for other options. I do want to check with LAPD Archangel and see what they would say. I do know that Mount Lee is a very important facility that we want to protect. I do know that people are hiking more, which is good, and at the same time. So we're going to continue this as well, but I think this is a good start. So I want to thank everybody for coming and talking at this time on these two issues. Mr. Clerk, does that complete our agenda?
Yes, that completes our agenda.
Okay, so everybody, I want to thank you, and have a good day. We'll be in touch in the next 30 days. Thank you.